Greetings. I am the spirit of Christmas past, and this is a tale of Ebenezer Scrooge, but really it's a story about all of us. To truly understand someone, you must first understand their past. So that is where we begin today, with a reminder of how Ebenezer came to be this way. Welcome to Shoreline's A Christmas Carol.
I can still hear my father's voice. Money is the most important thing in life. And if you want real money, you are going to have to really work for it. I was 10 when I learned that lesson. I learned quickly how difficult life is without money. You can buy almost anything with money, and the things you can't buy, you're probably better off without. After all, money is the most important thing in life. Humbug! Compromise is weakness, no? To pander, a lack of conviction. I may be alone, but only because others cannot stomach the truth. Besides, spare me the pain. More people, more opinions. More opinions, more mess. And the last thing I'm willing to do is entertain the mess. Still, has my solitude served me well? If it's between the mess and the miser, experience favors the miser every time. And I don't care. It doesn't bother me. I may not be surrounded by company, but I don't care. Only the weak need the validation of relationship.
As you know, family is not an emotionally neutral topic. It's not an emotionally neutral subject. When you hear the word father, there's some emotion to it. When you hear the word mom or mother, there's some emotion attached to it. It goes with your brother, sister, older sister, whatever. All of those words, they elicit some kind of emotional response. They're emotional words. So one of the worst things you can do when it comes to family is to tell yourself this lie: I don't care. I don't care. And that's where Scrooge is because of the disappointments of the past, because of the hurts, because of his past. As a protective measure, he tells himself, I don't care. And after a while, he begins to believe it. Because when you tell yourself something long enough, you will believe it. And those words, I don't care, are the words that begin our own journey to becoming Scrooge. I haven't talked to my dad in 5 years. I don't care. My mother dropped out of the picture. She left us. I don't care. My brother embarrassed the family when he ripped off our grandparents. So I don't care. No one knows where my sister is, and no one cares. My mom, she's with another guy now. I don't care. And as a pastor, I get to talk to a lot of people who say this when it comes to family members. Eric, I used to care, but it got complicated. It was emotionally complicated. It was so difficult. When it comes to him, when it comes to my dad, when it comes to her, I just don't care anymore. One of the most harmful lies you can tell yourself was when it comes to members of your family, when it comes to your father, comes to your mom, your brother, your sister. I never really hear parents say this about their children, though, even though there might be a separation, they might be estranged. You don't hear parents say, I don't care. But you hear it more often when it comes to parents, especially dads. You know, Eric, when it comes to my dad, I just don't care anymore. Well, today what I want you to do is, through this story, is I want you to understand that you were born to care. You were created to care. In fact, if you don't care, there's something wrong with you. To which some of you might go, no. If you hear my story, Eric, you'll see there's something wrong with them. And that may be so, but you were born to care. God created you to care. And here's the problem, is that you can say that you don't care anymore. You can run away. You can move away. You can get as far as you want from them, whatever. But it's like you got this big old bungee cord on your back. And one day, you know, you're living across the country and you're in your 30s, your 40s, or your 50s, and you live in a different part of the country. You got your own family, and for whatever reason, you get yanked back into that relationship because of that bungee cord that's attached to you. And all those emotions come flooding back, and you don't know what to do with them because now you're in a different family, different relationships, but you have those emotions, and so you don't know what to do with them. And some people try medicating, some people drink, whatever, and then your current family says, what's wrong with you? But because you're in an emotional fog, you don't know what's wrong with you, so you say, you are. You're the one that's wrong with me. Why don't you just stop bugging me? You're wrong. And the same thing that happened with your family years ago, your brother, your sister, your mom, your dad, starts happening with your current family, and you find yourself saying the same thing, I don't care. And just like Scrooge, you tell yourself that you don't care, and after a while, you'll begin to believe it. And you try to convince yourself that you don't care, but the problem is you were created to care. Now, here's something you can amen. As long as you have family, you're going to have conflict. Right? So today, combined with last week's talk, and if you didn't catch last week's talk, I encourage you to get online and check it out on our website. In terms of practicality, if you put these two together, I think it can go a long way to helping you with your relationships in this present Christmas. Because we're going to discover that today we're going to discover this, that there's only one source of conflict. Now, there's lots of ways you deal with conflict. There's many ways you approach conflict, many ways you handle it. But just like in the Christmas Carol, there's only one source of conflict, Scrooge. In your relationships, there's only one source of conflict. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try my best to bring in the past to the present. And if I believe that if you're here this morning, you're watching online, can wrap your mind around this concept, the tension and the arguing and you'll see it just almost disappear instantly. And you'll never have to lie to yourself again saying, well, I don't care. I'd just rather leave. I don't care. Now, to explain it, we're going to have to call on the brother of Jesus. His name is James. And James wrote a little epistle about 2,000 years ago, and he introduces us to this relational concept that is very powerful. And so what I want to do is I want to go right into this concept. And he introduces it in the form of a question. And the question goes like this: what causes fights and quarrels among you? What causes fights and quarrels among you? Now, if I was a sadistic man or a brave man, what I would do right now is I would have you turn to your family and the people that you came in with, and I'd have you discuss what causes fights and quarrels among you. And then I could sit back and enjoy it, because you know what would happen? Fights and quarrels would break out among you, because you'd begin to go, you cause fights and quarrels among you. My husband, he doesn't care about anyone but himself. My wife spends too much money. My son, he won't get a job, and she's always using my stuff. She's always wearing my clothes. He never puts things away. He always leaves every cabinet in the kitchen open. If he would just clean his room. You know what? If everyone would just do as I say, there would be peace in our family.
Sit. Alas, I've discovered the root of all of my troubles: other people. I have yet to spill a glass of wine. I have yet to tell a boring story. I have yet to break a promise. I have yet to overstay my welcome. But other people. I have 99 problems, but this bread ain't one. Now, since I cannot rely on the trustworthiness of other people, I will continue to have conversations in my reflection. Eliminate the variables of pain.
Phew, I was kind of worried there. Now, let me tell you something that you probably already know. I don't think Scrooge knows it, but I need to tell you this before we can move forward, and that's this. As long as you blame others for your unhappiness, you will always be unhappy. Yeah, that'll preach, won't it? I think I'll preach on it. As long as you blame others for your unhappiness, you will always be unhappy. As long as you personally say, it's him, it's her, it's them, it's their fault. What you're doing is you're taking your happiness to the person that you're in conflict with, and you saying, I can't stand you, but I'm going to give you my potential to be happy, and I want you to hold on to it, and you give it back to me whenever you decide to, because I can't allow myself to be happy until you do. Now, if I were to ask you, how many of you would like to give control of your happiness to the person you're in conflict with? Nobody would raise their hand, right? Nobody wants to do that. But we all get caught in this cycle of if she would, if he would just, if they would do this. And what you're doing is you're taking your happiness and you're handing it over to the person you're in conflict with, saying, I can't be happy until you do something differently. No one would do that on purpose. So until you understand what James is about to share with us, you will always be handing your happiness over to someone that you are in conflict with. Now, that may happen at work a little bit. That may happen on the ball field. That may happen when you want to feed and your mama's not there. That may happen on the roads when you're driving in Destin. But it happens a lot with family. In fact, some of you are here right now, and you're not very happy right now. You're not in a good situation. Your life is unhappy. And I bet if we looked, we could find some kind of relational issues that are happening at home. It's hard to learn, but it's necessary. That blame never accomplishes anything, because by blaming, ultimately, you are giving away your happiness. And part of what we're going to learn today is refusing to do that, and James is going to show us how to do that. Now, James has a way of showing us how to not give our happiness away with the people that we're in conflict with. Now, I'm going to tell you up front before I read it, some of you are not going to like it. Some of you are actually going to resist, push away. In fact, some of you are going to argue with me while I'm talking. Just do it in your head, okay? All right. Here's what he starts out with. He says, actually opens with the question that we opened with, and that is in James chapter 4, verse 1. He says, what causes fights and quarrels among you? Now, you would think at first glance that that's a general question. Like, that answer is not specific. It could be as many answers as there are to people in this room, because we all have different circumstances and different relationships. And James says, nope. That's why you have fights and quarrels among you, because you don't understand the source of where they're coming from. He says, what causes fights and quarrels among you? Don't they come from your desires that battle within you? James says, don't the fights that you're involved, the family conflict, doesn't it come from something inside you? To which we would go, no. The fights and quarrels come from something inside them. And James says, no. There's a common source for all your conflict, and it's something inside you. See, there's a desire within you, and it's spilling out on the people around you. That's the source of your conflict. There's conflict in you that's creating conflict with the people you're around, but that conflict is coming from you. And just think about this. We just stopped right there and thought about our most recent family argument. For some of you, it was in the car on the way here. If we just stopped and asked that question to ourselves, where did that conflict come from? I bet it would take away some of the temperature level of the conflict you're experiencing in your family. Just by asking where that conflict's coming from, I bet we would find it within us. Because he goes on to say, in verse 2, he says, you desire, but you do not have. Every time there's conflict, it's because you want something. Whenever there's conflict, I told you you're going to fight back on this one. Whenever there's conflict with someone in your family, it's because there's something that you want. Now you may go, but Eric, he promised. He gave me a vow. He said, till death do us part. We're going to get there. But every time there's a conflict with someone in your family, a relationship family, it's because there's something that you want and you're not getting. There's something that you want and you don't have. So he says, you desire, but you do not have, so you kill. Now, he's writing to a church, okay? He's not talking to people in prison, all right? He's not talking to people on death row. So he's using hyperbole. But it's very relevant when it comes to family. And here's what he's saying. James is saying, there's things that you want so badly that you are willing to hurt the people that you care about the most to get it. And you know what? You've seen that before. You've seen it. You've seen parents kill their relationship with their kids because they wanted something from their kids or for their kids. They wanted their kids to do something so badly. Some of you left home when you were 17 or 18 or 19. You couldn't stand to be around your parents anymore. Why? Because if I were to interview your parents, if we got past all the hurt, the pain, the tears, and the anguish, the person that ruined your relationship, the bottom line is they wanted you to do something. They wanted you to be something. They wanted you to behave a certain way, and there was something that you wanted them to stop doing, and it killed the relationship. We've all seen it. We've seen men belittle their kids to a point where they have no more confidence in themselves. We've seen dads criticize their sons to where they can't do anything right. We've seen moms destroy the relationship with their daughter because they have expectations for their daughters to behave a certain way. We've seen parents shame their children to a point they just don't want to be around mom or dad. See, when you want something from someone, from whether it's your husband, your wife, your son, your daughter, when you want something so bad, and you lose perspective and you don't understand the principle that James is saying here, this dynamic, this desire to want something from them or for them or out of them. And sometimes we want something from them to make us feel better about ourselves. But when you want something bad enough and you don't get what you want, we have the potential to destroy the relationship. We've seen it before. And then we defend ourselves by saying, I just want the best for them. I just want the best for my husband. I just want the best for my wife. I just want my kids to reach their potential. But you're lying to yourself because it's not about them, it's about you. Do you know why we hurt the people that are the closest to us the most? Because they're the people that are closest to us. I mean, think about it. Why do we hurt the person that we gave promises and a vow to? Why do we hurt the people the most, the ones that we brought into life? Because they're the ones that are closest to us, and we want something from them, and we want it so badly that we have the potential to destroy the relationship. And then we lie to ourselves and we say, it's them, it's them, it's them. And James says, no, it's you. I mean, just pause for a second. What if we stopped right here and just owned this one idea? What would happen in our homes? So he says, you desire but do not have, so you kill. You covet, but you cannot get what you want, so you quarrel and fight. We're right back to where we began. James, why can't my family get along? James says, because there's something you want and you can't get it.
What am I missing? What have I got wrong? What is this unrest, this knot in my soul that won't unwind? I've trusted my mind for so long. Do I dare trust my spirit? Help me. I feel like I'm losing my grip.
Hello, Abby.
Abby?
It's kind of my pet name for you.
Who are you?
I'm the spirit of Christmas present.
I know that song. My mother used to play it.
That's right. You used to dance to it. I have plenty of things to show you, Abby.
Spirit, I've been thinking of this. I know what you have to say, and I realize I've been living a fraction of a life, but this lesson is futile. I wish somebody would have shown me this years ago.
Abby, come with me. I have a few things to show you, and plenty of things to teach you. Come with me.
And I have some things to show you so that you don't end up saying what Scrooge said, which is, I wish somebody would have showed me this years ago. And just like last week's application, it's so simple. It's so simple. There I did it again. It's laughable. Okay, I'm trying to create a new word. It's simple and laughable, simpleable. All right. So what if in the middle of conflict, you're going at it, or before one starts, that's actually even better. What if you actually pause to recognize that you know what a part of the problem is here? I'm not getting what I want. You know what part of the problem is here is I'm not getting what I want. What if you have a conflict with your spouse, or you're going at it with your kids or your parents or your siblings, and you just stopped and you recognize, you know what part of the problem is? I'm not getting what I want. This would be a game changer. It's a game changer for my family when Darlene recognizes that she's not getting what she wants. Just think, you're there, you're presenting, you're one of those guys that you have a PowerPoint message at your argument, on why they're wrong and why you're right, and all of a sudden you recognize and you go, and another thing. You know what I think part of the problem is? I'm not getting what I want. And your wife goes, you know what? I think part of the problem is I'm not getting what I want. Hey, Dad, I think part of the problem is I'm not getting what I want. I think we need to practice this. Why don't you pull out one of your fingers, this one right here, the one we shake at people. And I want you to look at the person next to you, or you could do it to me, just like you're in a fight. And another thing. Come on, if that's the way you fight, I would walk all over you. And another thing, I think part of the problem is I'm not getting what I want. Do it. Some of you, that was good. Some of you act like you're laughing. I want to argue with you. Just think about that. I'm telling you, it is a game changer, because you realize when you're in the middle of a conflict and you're about to lose control, what if you were able to stop and be honest with yourself and come to the same conclusion that James came to? Part of the problem, not all of it, because people still need to take responsibility for their actions. But part of the problem, the root of this conflict is I'm not getting what I want. Now, before we go any further, if you're sitting here thinking, man, I wish my husband was here to hear this. I wish I'm going to show my teenager this video. You don't get it. Well, they need to hear the sermon. James would say, really? That's the problem, okay? As soon as we own the part of the problem, as soon as we own it, you will see the conflict and the tension just decrease in your family. Now, the reason why we resist this is because when we own at least part of the problem, we lose the ability to convince the other person why they're wrong. And we don't want that. You know why we don't want it? Because there's something that we want and we're not getting. That's why the best defense when it comes to family is no defense. See, the reason why we resist so hard at stopping in the middle of a conflict and saying that is because we don't want to lose that leverage. But if everyone in your family would begin to do this, begin to own this principle that there's something that I want and I'm not getting, I'm telling you, you would see the conflict in your family decrease. And I'm not saying this like I know this from experience. This has been a game changer. We will be in the middle of a conflict and one of us will do that. And we just go, you know what? The other one goes, you know what? I think that's my problem as well. See, the other problem is no one wants to do this first. But guys, if you want this to happen in your family, you need to lead the way. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, it is hard as a dad and as a husband to do this, because I'd rather blame Darlene. I'd rather blame the kids, because then I feel empowered. I feel justified for what I'm doing. But if it's me, guess what? I lose my leverage and my justification. And then I have to admit that I'm the one that's selfish. And I don't like doing that. Now, the other pushback I mentioned earlier is, yeah, but Eric, he promised. He said, till death do us part. I'm not asking for the moon. I just want him to keep his promise. It's the same thing. I want him to keep his promise, and I'm not getting what I want. I want her to keep her vows, and I'm not getting what I want. So just imagine during the most extreme circumstances, it's getting heated, and you are able to pause and think, part of the reason why I'm so angry is because I want something from him. I want something from her. I want something from them, and I'm not getting what I want. This could be so powerful. Now, James doesn't end there. He says one more thing. He says, you desire, but you do not have, so you kill. You covet, but you do not get you cannot get what you want, so you quarrel and fight. And then look at this. You do not have because you do not ask God. Now, this is so powerful, my friends. Now, listen, if you're not a Christian, you wouldn't call yourself a Christ follower, everything that I've been talking about up to this point will work. In fact, here's what I recommend for you. If you're not a Christ follower and you're here and you're the only one here, or maybe you're watching online by yourself, you want some real brownie points? Go home to your wife, your husband, and go, hey, family, I've just been thinking, part of the reason why we're having so much conflict is because I just want what I want, and I'm not getting it. It's me. I'm telling you, man, your kids will be like, Dad, I love you, right? So you can go do that. But listen, if you're a Christ follower, this is for you. And it's not something that we have to do, well, because I'm a Christ follower, I got to say it's my fault. No, it's something that we get to do because even though we say we don't care, God knows we care. And so for the sake of our hearts and the relationship, he's saying, look, instead of in the middle of conflict, stopping and going, hey, you know what the problem is? I'm not getting what I want. Did it ever occur to you before the argument started, or before you go raging in, or before you start sulking, or before you go in and rip the covers off your kid's bed at night because he didn't put the garbage down by the curb? Did it ever occur to you to get on your knees and say, and not say, God, I just want my son to have better friends, or God, I need my daughter to break up with her loser boyfriend, or God, I need my husband to make more money. Did it ever occur to you to ask God, before you go trying to extract something from someone else that they probably don't have anyway? He says, did it ever occur to you to ask God, look, God, I'm trying to get something from my mom. I'm trying to get something from my dad. I'm trying to get something from my wife or my husband, and I'm not getting what I want. And you think, no, I don't do that because I'm mad. And if I'm mad, I'd probably pray something like, God, give me the things I want, or, God, give him a job so he'll move out, or God, find her a husband so I don't have to deal with the drama all the time. No, James says you have not because you ask not. And listen, I know some of you. I know some of you do pray this. You don't pray it because you want something and you're not getting it. You pray something like, God, she's coming home from college in a little bit, and I'm going to have a conversation with her. And God, I know that there's propensity in me to want what I want. But before I have this conversation, I don't want it to be about what I want. I want it to be about what you want for her. I want to see things the way you see things. We want to see things the way you see things. And you know what? The conversation goes better. And you know why? Because you owned the problem. You said, God, not the way I see it, but the way you see it. God, not what I want, but what you want. See, you're acknowledging as part of the problem is me, God, is that I want something and I'm not getting what I want. So here's the question we're going to end with that Scrooge is actually dealing with right now when he's with the ghost, with the spirit of the Christmas present. And that's this question. Who's suffering because you're not getting what you want? Who's suffering because you're not getting what you want? Who feels in your family the pressure to change? To get skinny, to lose weight, to work out more, to be better, to live up to some expectations, to meet your expectations or to meet your approval, to make you happy. Who's suffering because you're not getting your way? In fact, some of you have adult children that don't even live with you, and they're still trying to make you happy. They're still trying to meet your expectations, to live up to your standards. And when they come home for Christmas, they can feel those things, and you can feel it. So, what could you do? Because in about a week, people are going to be coming, kids are coming back from college, relatives are coming over. What could you do before then to alleviate the pressure, to take the pressure off? Is it a simple text, an email, a letter, a phone call? Maybe it's something face to face where you say, I realize that I've put a lot of pressure on you because there's something I want. and I'm not getting it, and I just want to release you from that. See, if every family who seeks Christ could just pause before this storm that we call the Christmas holidays is on us, and just take a moment and say, God, before I start this conversation, before everybody comes over, before they all get here, God, I just want to recognize that there is something that I want and I'm not getting it. So what I want to do, God, is I want to deal with what I want in here, my heart, so I don't deal with them out here. Can you imagine what this present Christmas could look like if you began to own that part of the reason, begin to recognize that part of the reason why there's so much conflict in your family is because you're not getting what you want? Could you imagine the peace that would happen in your family if you could own this truth? Could you imagine what your future Christmases would look like without the excuse of, I don't care.
Spirit, I don't believe I've ever met anybody like you.
Ebenezer, there's one more thing.
Spirit, no, please. I fear the future the most. Can you come with me? I feel it won't do any good to change now.
Just like Yellowstone, you're going to have to come back next week if you want to see not only what Scrooge's future looks like, but your future. So think about it before we go into worship. What causes fights and quarrels among you? What would happen if you realized it's because of something I want and I'm not getting it? And your spouse is here and she said or he said, yep, it's something I want, I'm not getting. Imagine how your future would look if you refused to give your happiness over to people that you're in conflict with. Because your happiness is not determined by someone else, it's determined by here, inside. That you'll never have to say, I don't care. I want you to stand, if you'd stand with me. I'm going to pray and we're going to go into some worship. Because I really believe this is a game changer for you in the holidays, because the stress level in the holidays is real. And so if you would, let's just pray. Would you bow your heads? Heavenly Father, we're so grateful for your word. Even though it's hard to see, the Bible says that it's like a mirror that shows us the truth. And it's hard to see the truth sometimes. But God, I know that it is true. Because I can look in my own heart and see the conflict that I have with my family, and it's because I'm not getting what I want. Lord, we refuse today to hand our happiness over to the people that we're in conflict with. We decide today to make a decision that we're going to deal with the desire in us that wants what we want, that causes fights and quarrels, so that we don't kill our relationships. Lord, thank you so much, as hard as it is, for showing us this. Lord, you're the only way we can do this. You're the only one who can fix some of these severed relationships that we're dealing with. And Lord, we're not afraid to show you our weaknesses. We're not afraid to confess and humble ourselves, not only before you, and say, God, I need you in the relationships in my family, but we are humble enough to confess to our family that it's me, I'm the problem. Lord, we thank you that you are such a great God and that you love us even in our weaknesses. You call us friend. We love you in Jesus' name. Amen.